and today we are going to learn about the theory of evolution or the evolutionary doctrine by Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer was highly influenced by one of the pioneers of the evolutionary theory, and that was Charles Darwin. Spencer himself was an Englishman, and he was deeply impressed with the theory of evolution related to the evolution of every species being. Like, how did every type of species evolve in the world? And Spencer took this idea and tried to interpret it in his own way, because he would later use this idea of evolution in the context of society. But firstly, let's look at what Spencer had to talk of his understanding of evolution. So we're going to have a quick look at these few pointers here, like the evolutionary doctrine, the theory of evolution, and the organic evolution which Spencer speaks of. Now, as you see here, the evolutionary doctrine that Spencer spoke about was Spencer's main concern about the concern of evolutionary change in society. This was Spencer's main focus. Like, he wanted to use this evolutionary principle or this doctrine in the context of society, specifically to look at the social structures and institutions as to how these evolve. And as I said, he was greatly influenced by biology. He drew parallels between organic and social evolutions. Organic, which meant that he looked at how a species evolve from what he defined as evolution, being something that is simple, from something that is simple, incoherent, homogeneous, to something that becomes complex, compound, definite, coherent, and heterogeneous. And therefore, Spencer looked at first the universal phenomena of the organic, the inorganic, and the supraorganic, subject to natural laws of evolution. He looked at this as there were laws that govern evolution, and Spencer produced a dual theory of progress that was applicable to organic beings as well as the society or the stages or the progress of human society. So Spencer made evolution a universal principle in his treatise, The First Principle, and Spencer defined evolution as a change from relatively indefinite, incoherent homogeneity to definite, coherent heterogeneity. This is what I basically introduced you to the exercise of looking at how the universe and yourselves were created, and you'll see that right from the point of time of a single cellular cell organism called as the amoeba protozoa to multicellular complex beings, species beings, right to your own self of being a simple cell which is born into with the help of a sperm and an egg, fertilized egg, to becoming you, is what you could see as evolution of something that is relatively indefinite, incoherent, homogeneous, to something that becomes definite, coherent, and heterogeneous. And these were based by what Spencer speaks of, 3 laws. And these 3 laws were further supplemented with 4 propositions. So the first law is a law of persistent force, and he believes that force is permanent. Force exists in the whole universe. Force is everywhere. There is some force that governs every single thing in this universe. And this force never ceases to increase or decrease. It is beyond any expectation, provided by knowledge. All phenomena rest on this force which no one knows, but it is some force. A force that makes us believe that there is something that transforms varied aspects of this universe. And this is a force. And this force is persistent. And it is almost constant. The next law he speaks about is the law of indestructibility of matter. The matter that is created in this universe, in this world, is in the form of energy. It is neither created nor destroyed, but is conserved. Whatever is existing in this universe, in this world, it can never be completely destroyed. It never dies, in other words. It just transforms into something else. Your own self, your own body, which is there, which was born out of a single sperm and a fertilized egg, can never be destroyed. It just transforms into something else, into some other being, into multiple microorganisms feasting on it after your death, and you get transformed into something else, and that means that you cannot be completely destroyed. And the law of continuity of motion means that there is a continuous motion in the world. Just like matter, motion cannot be stopped or destroyed. When the form of matter changes, motion also changes. So I gave you this example earlier, that you cannot be destroyed completely and you get transformed into something else. And there is a force which is involved into that process as well. The force creates the motion, and as a result of which you will see all these three laws are so very interrelated and interdependent and intertwined into this evolutionary principle of every single aspect of this universe or the world that we live in, that contributes to its transformation or change. And therefore this takes us to the four propositions put forth by Spencer, which is related to each of these laws. And I want you to, after this video that you watch, you can create a table and fit in these propositions related to the laws. You can relate them to specifically the laws to which you can match them. So the first proposition is the law of uniformity of all persistence. There is persistence of certain relationship in the world. The world is an order of elements. All these have definite regularity. That means we spoke of the law of persistent force, and there is uniformity of that force. And this force is persistent. It has a relationship in the world in the order of all the different 5 elements that we speak of. And there is a definite regularity of this. The law of transformation or equivalence of force means that the force, the elements of matter, the motion are never lost, are dissipated entirely in the process of change. They just get transformed into something else, as I said to you earlier. And this again can be related to the law of indestructibility of matter. So nothing can be lost completely. It is a continuous process of change, and this is what contributes to evolution of different types of beings, species beings in the world, that because of something else gets created. When something else we think is dead, with that something else gets created, it gets formed. Like you have this animal cycle, you have this food cycle, and you will see that it's so very interdependent. Like we depend on some other animals depend on something else, and with this you will see all of them grow, and with their death again something else grows, and so on. Because if we as human beings, we grow because we feast on the dead animals, like or plants, or like fishes and different types of animals that we consume, and we are growing after that. Okay, so like this way, different type of species, beings in the world evolve like this way on other species beings. And this takes us to the other proposition, that the law of least resistance and great attraction. There is a tendency for everything to move in a line of least resistance and great attraction. This means, like, if we look at water takes the direction of least resistance and great attraction. And all the things in the universe also function like this way. It takes the line of least resistance and great attraction. Okay, and as a result of which you'll find change. And lastly, the principle of alteration or rhythm of motion. All phenomena in nature have their own particular rate and rhythm of movement, of duration, of development. And this explains to us that why every type of species being are so very different from each other. Because all of them, the space that they belong to, the area that they belong to, the place that they come from, all of them experience different types of natural or social environment around them, which has a different rate and a different rhythm and a different duration to the development that contributes to its evolution. And as a result, you will see all these 3 laws and 4 propositions contribute to the evolutionary doctrine or the evolutionary principle. So this joint product of these laws by Spencer's philosophy acknowledged 2 fundamental categories: the unknowable or the absolute or unconditional, and the knowable, that is the finite and the conditioned. The unknowable is sometimes within the domain of religion. Like many other things that we don't know, sometimes religion tries to answer this. And the knowable is the domain of science. That what we know, that what can be observed, that what can be seen, which consists of material aggregates, concentration of matter. Material aggregates undergoes constant change of evolution, which can be observed, or you can experiment and find out this. Okay, and it is possible to do that. So this is what we see in Spencer's idea of evolutionary doctrine. And Spencer formulated an important conception in which he states that the homogeneous or the uniform has a tendency to become heterogeneous or multiform. Thus, Spencer states the universal tendency of material aggregates to move from a condition of unstable, that is homogeneous, to something that becomes stable, to stable heterogeneous equilibrium. Means from single part or single cellular we become into multiple parts, multicellular. And Spencer expands the law of instability of homogeneous and says that the homogeneous is inherently unstable, and the persistent forces act upon the various parts and creates differences, giving rise to the future structure which is heterogeneous. So evolutionary theory of Spencer is based on these 7 laws, which includes the 3 fundamental laws and then the 4 propositions. And according to Spencer, when we try to look at the order or change in any kind of phenomena in the world, the pattern of transformation is the same, such as evolution is an integration of matter, concomitant dissipation of motion, during which matter passes from relatively indefinite, incoherent homogeneity to definite coherent heterogeneity. So according to Spencer, all phenomena of nature such as planets or stars or biological organisms, universe, social, psychological experience of human beings follow this pattern of change, and all processes of change are similar and emerge out of the same physical matter. So with this, it brings us to the conclusion that Spencer applied the biological theory of evolution. Okay, first he talks of the general universal evolution, and he applied it to society in his second part, which we'll be studying soon. But it's important for you to know that Spencer provides us with what is called as social Darwinism, because he applies Darwin's concept of evolution to society. And he also says that just as the universe or different species evolve In the same way, do societies evolve from something that is relatively incoherent, indefinite, okay, to something that becomes, and also something that is homogeneous, to something that becomes relatively coherent, definite, and heterogeneous. Thank you.